Beneath the churning waters of the North Sea lies a hidden chapter of human history, a vast, fertile landscape that once connected Britain to continental Europe. Known as Doggerland, this submerged territory was approximately the size of modern Britain and thrived with Mesolithic human populations and diverse wildlife during the last ice age. Today, we'll explore this remarkable lost world, its dramatic demise, and the striking parallels it offers to our contemporary climate challenges. Imagine standing at the edge of Britain 12,000 years ago. Instead of gazing across the North Sea toward continental Europe, you would see an expansive fertile plain stretching to the horizon. This was Doggerland, not just a narrow land bridge, but a vast territory approximately the size of modern Britain. During the last ice age, when global sea levels were substantially lower, this now invisible landscape was home to thriving Mesolithic communities. These hunter-gatherers built settlements alongside an incredible diversity of wildlife. Herds of mammoths traversed the plains, while deer and massive aurochs, the wild ancestors of modern cattle, grazed on rich grasslands. The landscape featured a complex network of rivers, hills, and wetlands, creating ideal conditions for human habitation. For thousands of years, our ancestors walked this land, leaving behind tools, weapons, and evidence of their daily lives, artifacts now hidden beneath meters of seawater and sediment. The story of Doggerland's transformation begins approximately 11,700 years ago, with the conclusion of the last ice age. For millennia, massive ice sheets had locked away enormous volumes of water, keeping sea levels significantly lower than today. As global temperatures began rising steadily, these ice sheets started to melt, releasing their frozen reserves back into the world's oceans. This wasn't a sudden event, but a gradual, relentless process that slowly transformed the geography of northern Europe. Year after year, decade after decade, century after century, the waters rose. The low-lying plains of Doggerland, with their gentle topography, were particularly vulnerable to this encroachment. By approximately 8,500 years ago, what had once been a continuous landmass connecting Britain to continental Europe had fragmented into an archipelago of islands. The human populations living in this changing environment didn't disappear overnight. Archaeological evidence suggests they adapted their lifestyles to the new reality, perhaps becoming more dependent on marine resources as their terrestrial hunting grounds shrank. They may have developed new fishing technologies and boat-building skills to navigate the expanding waterways. This period represents a fascinating chapter of human resilience and adaptation to significant environmental change. While the gradual submersion of Doggerland had been ongoing for thousands of years, its final chapter arrived with sudden, catastrophic force around 6200 BCE. The culprit was the Storegga Slide, an underwater landslide of almost unimaginable proportions off Norway's coast. This wasn't just any geological event, it was one of the largest submarine landslides ever identified. Approximately 3,000 cubic kilometers of sediment, enough to bury Manhattan Island under more than 60 kilometers of debris, slipped down the continental shelf and into the deep ocean. The displacement of this massive volume created something truly terrifying, a mega tsunami. The resulting waves raced across the North Atlantic, reaching heights of 20 to 25 meters in some coastal regions. When this wall of water struck the remaining Doggerland archipelago, the impact was devastating. Settlements would have been obliterated in minutes. Any inhabitants who couldn't flee to higher ground would have perished. Archaeological evidence from coastal sites around the North Sea shows a distinct layer of sediment associated with this tsunami event. The Storegga Slide didn't just destroy settlements, it accelerated the complete submersion of the region. Areas that might have remained as islands for centuries longer were overwhelmed, permanently altering the geography of northern Europe. Within a relatively short geological time frame, mere generations in human terms, an area that had supported human habitation for thousands of years disappeared beneath the waves. The survivors would have been forced to migrate to what we now know as Britain or continental Europe, perhaps carrying with them stories and oral traditions about their lost homeland, tales that might have inspired later flood myths in various European cultures. For centuries, the existence of Doggerland remained unknown, its story hidden beneath the waves of the North Sea. The first clues came from an unexpected source: fishing trawlers working the waters over the Dogger Bank, a prominent sandbank that once formed part of this submerged landmass. Fishermen occasionally hauled up unusual items in their nets alongside their catch, worked flints, bone tools, and even human remains. These artifacts, dragged from the seabed, provided tantalizing glimpses of a prehistoric landscape that had once been dry land. But it wasn't until recent decades that a comprehensive picture of Doggerland began to emerge, thanks to remarkable technological advances. The breakthrough came from an unexpected direction: the petroleum industry. Oil companies had been conducting extensive seismic surveys of the North Sea floor to identify potential drilling sites. These surveys generated detailed data about the subsurface geology of the region. Archaeologists realized this data could be repurposed to create three-dimensional maps of the ancient landscape hidden beneath the seabed. The results were astonishing. These reconstructions revealed a complex topography that had once existed: river valleys cutting through gently rolling hills, lakes nestled in natural depressions, and areas of higher ground that would have been ideal for human settlement. Particularly significant was the identification of the ancient Schotten River system, a major waterway that would have provided fresh water, transportation routes, and abundant resources for Mesolithic inhabitants. This innovative use of industrial data transformed our understanding of Doggerland, allowing archaeologists to visualize a landscape that had been invisible for thousands of years. The archaeological record of Doggerland continues to expand through both accidental discoveries and targeted research expeditions. Each artifact recovered from the seabed provides a tangible connection to the people who once called this submerged land home. Perhaps the most evocative discovery came in 1931, when the fishing trawler Kalinda was working the waters over the Dogger Bank. Among the day's catch, the crew found something extraordinary: a barbed point crafted from antler. This wasn't just any tool, it was a sophisticated harpoon, evidence of advanced hunting technology. Alongside it were worked flint tools, clearly fashioned by human hands. When these artifacts were later radiocarbon dated, they were found to be approximately 11,000 years old, concrete proof of human presence in this now submerged territory. More recent discoveries have added to our understanding. In 2019, researchers recovered a hammerstone and various worked flints from the seabed near the Dutch coast, dating to approximately 9,000 years ago. These tools provide evidence of human technological adaptation in this changing environment. The archaeological investigation of Doggerland took another leap forward in 2021, with the analysis of sediment cores extracted from the North Sea floor. Using cutting-edge techniques, researchers identified preserved DNA evidence of diverse flora and fauna that once inhabited the region. This environmental DNA revealed a landscape populated by birch, pine, and alder trees, alongside animals including reindeer and hares. These findings paint a vivid picture of a rich ecosystem that supported human communities for thousands of years. Each artifact, each DNA sample, each sediment core adds another piece to the puzzle, gradually revealing the story of a lost world and the people who lived there during a time of profound environmental change. What was daily life like for the inhabitants of Doggerland? The archaeological evidence provides fascinating glimpses into their world. These weren't primitive people struggling to survive. They were skilled hunter-gatherers with sophisticated technologies adapted perfectly to their environment. The barbed harpoon recovered by the Kalinda trawler tells us they were accomplished fishers and hunters, capable of crafting complex tools. The worked flints found across the region show they had mastered the art of stone tool production, creating specialized implements for different tasks: scrapers for preparing hides, blades for cutting, awls for puncturing materials. The environmental DNA recovered from sediment cores reveals the rich ecosystem they inhabited. Forests of birch, pine, and alder would have provided building materials, fuel, and habitat for game animals. The presence of reindeer and hares in the DNA record indicates potential hunting targets, while the extensive river systems would have offered fish, waterfowl, and transportation routes. Doggerland wasn't a marginal environment, but a resource-rich landscape that could support substantial human populations. The gradual flooding of their homeland would have presented enormous challenges. As waters rose over generations, communities would have been forced to adapt or relocate. They may have shifted from primarily terrestrial hunting to greater reliance on marine resources. Settlement patterns would have changed as lowland areas became uninhabitable. The archaeological record suggests these Mesolithic people were remarkably resilient, developing new technologies and subsistence strategies in response to their changing world. When we imagine life in Doggerland, we should envision not just a physical landscape but a cultural one: communities with their own languages, belief systems, artistic traditions, and social structures. Though much of this cultural richness leaves no trace in the archaeological record, the sophisticated tools and adaptive strategies we do find hint at complex societies with deep knowledge of their environment and the skills to thrive within it, until the inexorable rise of the seas ultimately forced them to abandon their homeland. The story of Doggerland has acquired new relevance in our era of anthropogenic climate change. The gradual inundation of this once populated landscape serves as a potent historical analog for the challenges facing coastal communities worldwide today. There are crucial similarities and differences worth examining. The submersion of Doggerland occurred during the early Holocene, a period of natural climate warming following the last glacial maximum. Like today, rising temperatures led to melting ice sheets and rising sea levels. Like today, human communities faced the loss of habitable land and the need to adapt or migrate. But the key difference is rate. While Doggerland's transformation unfolded over millennia, allowing for gradual adaptation, today's climate changes are occurring at an unprecedented pace, driven by human activity. Modern sea level rise is accelerating, potentially forcing adaptations within decades rather than centuries. Unlike the prehistoric inhabitants of Doggerland, who had no scientific understanding of the global processes transforming their environment, modern societies possess comprehensive climate science knowledge and technological capabilities to address rising sea levels. Yet despite this advantage, many coastal communities worldwide face existential threats. From Bangladesh to Miami, from Pacific Island nations to the Netherlands, millions of people confront scenarios that echo Doggerland's fate, albeit on a compressed timescale. The scale difference is particularly stark. While Doggerland's flooding displaced relatively small hunter-gatherer populations over centuries, today's sea level rise threatens hundreds of millions in densely populated coastal cities worldwide. Researchers studying Doggerland suggest understanding how prehistoric populations responded to rising waters might offer valuable insights for contemporary adaptation strategies. Archaeological evidence indicates that Doggerland's inhabitants likely responded to changing conditions through migration, technological innovation, and shifts in subsistence patterns, all strategies that remain relevant today, though at vastly different scales and complexities. The technological revolution in Doggerland research continues to accelerate, with each new advance revealing more details about this submerged world. Modern mapping techniques have transformed our understanding of Doggerland's geography and how it changed over time. Using multi-beam echo sounders, sub-bottom profilers, and side-scan sonar, researchers can now create incredibly detailed maps of the seabed and what lies beneath it. These technologies allow archaeologists to identify features that would have been significant to Mesolithic inhabitants, river channels, lake beds, areas of higher ground that would have remained as islands during the flooding process. The University of Bradford's Europe's Lost Frontiers project represents one of the most ambitious efforts to map and understand Doggerland. Researchers have used petroleum industry's seismic data combined with their own surveys to create detailed reconstructions of the ancient landscape. They've identified not just the major topographical features, but even potential settlement sites where further investigation might yield significant discoveries. These mapping efforts have revealed that Doggerland wasn't a uniform landscape, but a diverse environment with distinct regions. Some areas featured dense forests, others open grasslands. There were extensive wetlands, river valleys, and hills. This environmental diversity would have provided a rich variety of resources for Mesolithic inhabitants. Perhaps most importantly, these mapping technologies allow researchers to track how the landscape changed over time as sea levels rose. They can identify which areas flooded first, which remained as islands the longest, and how the drainage patterns evolved as the waters advanced. This temporal dimension is crucial for understanding how human populations might have adapted to their changing environment. The maps created through these technologies aren't just academic exercises, they guide underwater archaeological investigations, helping researchers target the most promising areas for further study. As technology continues to advance, our picture of Doggerland grows ever more detailed, revealing the lost world that once connected Britain to continental Europe. The catastrophic Storegga Slide that delivered the final blow to Doggerland has become a subject of intense scientific investigation in its own right. Geologists and archaeologists have worked together to understand this massive underwater landslide and its devastating consequences. The slide occurred approximately 8,200 years ago off the coast of Norway, when an enormous section of the continental shelf collapsed. The numbers are staggering. Approximately 3,000 cubic kilometers of sediment displaced in a single event, creating one of the largest submarine landslides ever identified. But what caused this catastrophic failure? Research suggests multiple factors may have contributed. The area had accumulated thick layers of glacial sediments during the last ice age. As these sediments settled on the sloping continental shelf, they became increasingly unstable. Rising sea levels may have increased pressure on these deposits, while the release of methane gas from decomposing organic material could have further destabilized the underwater slopes. When the collapse finally occurred, it triggered a tsunami of enormous proportions. Computer models suggest waves reaching 20 to 25 meters in height along some coastlines, taller than a six-story building. The tsunami would have traveled across the North Sea at hundreds of kilometers per hour, striking the remaining Doggerland archipelago with devastating force. Archaeological evidence of this tsunami has been found at sites around the North Sea basin. In Scotland, Norway, and Denmark, researchers have identified distinctive sediment layers containing marine microfossils suddenly deposited on what were then coastal settlements. These tsunami deposits provide physical evidence of the catastrophe and help researchers date the event precisely. The Storegga Slide is particularly significant because it represents a type of natural disaster that could potentially occur again. Other areas of unstable submarine slopes exist worldwide, and understanding the mechanisms that triggered the Storegga event helps assess these modern risks. For the people of Doggerland, this tsunami was likely experienced as an apocalyptic event, a disaster beyond their understanding that permanently altered their world, and perhaps entered their oral traditions as stories of great floods that would be passed down through generations. The submerged landscape of Doggerland represents far more than an archaeological curiosity. It holds profound implications for our understanding of European prehistory and human adaptation to environmental change. For decades, archaeologists viewed the English Channel as a natural barrier that separated British prehistory from continental developments. The recognition of Doggerland fundamentally changes this perspective. Rather than a peripheral island, Britain was once simply the western uplands of a continuous European plain. This connection would have facilitated the movement of people, ideas, and technologies throughout the Mesolithic period. The genetic heritage of Doggerland likely lives on in modern populations across northern Europe. When the waters rose, its inhabitants didn't simply disappear. They migrated to surrounding higher ground in what would become Britain, the Netherlands, Denmark, and Germany. They would have brought their technologies, cultural practices, and genetic lineages with them, contributing to the complex tapestry of European prehistory. Some researchers have even suggested that stories of lost lands and great floods found in the mythologies of northern European cultures might preserve distant memories of Doggerland's submergence, particularly the catastrophic Storegga tsunami. While such connections remain speculative, they hint at how significant environmental events can echo through cultural memory for millennia. Perhaps most importantly, Doggerland serves as a powerful reminder of our planet's dynamic nature and humanity's ongoing relationship with changing environments. It demonstrates that significant geographical transformations have occurred throughout human history, forcing adaptations and migrations. However, it also underscores the unprecedented nature of our current situation, where human-induced climate change accelerates natural processes at rates that may overwhelm our adaptive capabilities. By studying how our ancestors navigated their changing world, perhaps we can gain wisdom to face our environmental crossroads with greater foresight and resilience. As research continues to unveil the secrets of this forgotten continent through advanced mapping technologies, sediment analysis, and recovered artifacts, Doggerland's legacy extends beyond its archaeological significance to offer a submerged mirror reflecting our past and potential future. Doggerland represents one of history's most profound lost worlds, a vast territory now hidden beneath the North Sea that once connected Britain to continental Europe. Its gradual submersion following the last ice age, culminating in the catastrophic Storegga tsunami around 8,200 years ago, transformed the geography of northern Europe and forced our Mesolithic ancestors to adapt or migrate. Through remarkable archaeological discoveries and cutting-edge mapping technologies, we've begun to reconstruct this submerged landscape with its rivers, forests, and human settlements. The story of Doggerland transcends archaeology to offer powerful lessons for our present climate crisis. While its inhabitants experienced environmental change over millennia, today's coastal communities face similar challenges at an accelerated pace. The difference lies not just in speed but in knowledge. Unlike our ancestors, we understand the processes transforming our world and possess the technology to respond. As we continue uncovering Doggerland's secrets from beneath the waves, this lost continent provides both a window into our prehistoric past and a sobering reflection of potential futures as our planet's climate continues to change. In the submerged legacy of Doggerland, we find a compelling reminder of nature's power, human resilience, and the imperative to apply our knowledge towards sustainable adaptation in our rapidly changing world. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for updates. Your feedback is appreciated. We hope to see you again.